Lewis Hamilton's first days in Ferrari were packed with action, and it looks like the team is ready to give back to the seven-time world champion as well. The requests that he's made have been fulfilled, according to reports close to the team, and now there is certainly going to be even more tension between him and Leclerc as the car is starting to suit his driving style more and more. But with Hamilton still having a large gap to close, are these moves from the Maranello squad showing that he is definitely going for the championship in 2025? And if so, how will it turn out regarding the intra-team battle with Leclerc? It goes without saying that Hamilton's tenure with Ferrari started with a very busy schedule, and with Lewis driving the car in Fiorano and now being booked for a Barcelona-bound 3-day testing with the SF23, it's a massive boost for the Brits' adaptation process. Before he even got to Ferrari, he asked for multiple changes on the car, such as the position of the cockpit, which he also requested in Mercedes, and there are reports stating that Ferrari have been glad to make this change in order to make sure that the seven-time world champion won't have anything to complain about. But it's not just the cockpit position that he's asked to change. Hamilton has asked about a few changes to the pedals of the car, which is far more complicated and difficult compared to the position of the cockpit. Before making adjustments to his own preferences, Hamilton used the steering wheel of Leclerc, and even though it was quite complicated to fulfill what he wanted in the first place, Ferrari have gone ahead and fulfilled this wish as well. What is very interesting to see here is the fact that Hamilton is being given a lot of testing time, which was to be expected because the seven-time world champion has been lacking a lot of this segment in the past couple of months. The advantage will be on Leclerc's side, at least in the early phases of the season, given the fact that he has more experience with Ferrari and is one of the best qualifiers on the grid. Now that Ferrari have improved the car on both Saturday and Sunday, Hamilton will be provided with a more decent car in order to scrub off the myth that he's not good enough on Saturday, costing him a lot of ground to cover on Sunday. In 2024, he lost the qualifying duel to Russell 19-5, and while there were tons of experiments done on his car at the last minute, it's still a big psychological burden that he needs to get off his chest as soon as possible. The mission won't be made easy given the fact that he's going against Leclerc, a man who's been able to put his car on the front row many times despite it being inferior in these situations. And now that the grid is going to be even more compacted, it's surely going to spark some intra-team tensions that could shape the future for Ferrari in a very unexpected way. Nevertheless, the mission must go on. Ferrari is the team that needs to win the championship, at least in the constructors category, and with the strongest duo on the grid, anything below P1 will be considered a loss for the Maranello squad. This is why Vasseur prefers to have a sweet headache with both of his drivers fighting for P1 in a similar fashion like Rosberg and Hamilton did back in 2014 to 2016, rather than seeing them collect scrap points. But what needs to be said is that this is not an era in which one team is dominant over the rest of the peers. Quite the contrary. It's a highly competitive environment, and Hamilton needs every bit of help he can retrieve from Ferrari in order to be as close as possible to Leclerc. There is absolutely no worries at all from Vasseur when it comes to Hamilton's qualifying form, as the Frenchman was more than adamant that it was just a poor stint in Mercedes that plagued the one-lap performance of the seven-time world champion. What he stressed as the most important thing is that points are scored on Monday, and also the fact that it's up to the team to deliver the best possible car to the drivers in order to extrapolate the absolute maximum from it. If there is a driver who can do that, it's definitely the one with the most pole positions in the history of the sport, and whether we like it or not, Hamilton is definitely going to be up there if all the stars align in Ferrari and the strange experiments with the strategy are going to stop. And there is no question about Hamilton's impact on the engineers and the feedback that he's provided from the first laps he's driven with the F1 75 in Fiorano. The myth of Hamilton not being able to work closely with his engineers and provide solid feedback regarding the car's behaviour is something that he's going to want to debunk as fast as possible. And the changes that Ferrari made to the car are already showing that he is not ready to give himself up to these accusations yet. Be that as it may, the competition between between Hamilton and Leclerc is going to be massive, and on top of that, they will have some other drivers they'd have to worry about, which would put Ferrari in a position to choose which horse they would back. This is something that Horner has commented on, and when talking about the current situation in one of his team's fiercest rivals, the Brit is not exactly sure how everything will pan out. As he added, Red Bull is perhaps slightly different to other teams where we go, do you know what? Verstappen is the most valuable asset in Formula One. He is our lead driver. If you can get close to him, fantastic. But the reality is for Max to win. A team like Ferrari in 2025, for example, are going to have two drivers who are going to be taking points off each other. And which horse do you back? You have to back both of them, but that sometimes becomes divisive within a team. Different teams have different approaches. But as I mentioned earlier in this video, the goal for Ferrari is loud and clear. A fight for the win that would result in a 1-2 is a far more preferred scenario than what they've been through so far, and that is why Vasseur is very optimistic about the future of the team. When addressing Horner's comments, the team principal of Ferrari said, "Yeah, I prefer to fight for 1-2 than for 19th and 20th. This is clear, and I think it's also part of the performance, clearly. The last 2 years I let the drivers race on the track, and it was for the benefit of the team because the emulation that we created like this was part of the recovery when we had tough times, and the drivers had huge respect between them." But what Vasseur needs to remember is the comments made from Leclerc after the Las Vegas GP, where the Monegasque driver obviously felt like he was the one who got away with the thicker end of things regarding the strategy of Ferrari. This is the race in which he said that he will care about nobody but himself, and it's a clear message to all of the Ferrari fans. Expect Leclerc to fight until his last breath if the competition from Hamilton is ramped up thanks to the preferred changes of the car. Hamilton is not exactly known as a man who likes losing to his teammate, and although nobody does, being at the champion you are and coming with the profile you possess, you would want to impress everyone in your debut. So if Leclerc is starting to get a bit more comfortable than usual with the advantage he would potentially have over Hamilton, then the 7-time world champion will, I'm sure, strike back without hesitation. To expect that he would give up throughout the first inconvenience is definitely an understatement, because if you see what he went through with Mercedes throughout the ground effect era, you would see what type of warrior Hamilton is. Now that he has an ally in Loic Serra, the chassis technical director of Mercedes, it will be interesting to see how he'll implement the feedback from Hamilton regarding the behaviour of the car, considering that both of them were strong opposers of the zero-pod design in Mercedes. With all this in mind, do you think there is an opportunity for Hamilton to fight for the championship in the first season in Ferrari? And if so, how do you think Leclerc would react to the increased competition now that he has a world champion and one of the best drivers in the world next to him? Let us know in the comments below, and if you want to find out more about the latest Aston Martin drama, make sure to check out the video that's appearing on your screen right now.